Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Ms. Muckout,
Here.
Mr. Olson,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Erkins,
Here.
Mr. Rastigard.
Okay, so Tim just mentioned he got stuck at work, so he'll join via Zoom. So as soon as he pops on, just let us know. He can say, hey. Okay, with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Minutes are approved. On to the monthly activity and financial report, Cody and Stephanie.
Madam Chair, Directors of the Board, first of all, I want to say happy belated birthday to our Madam Chair. On Sunday was her birthday, so we got you a little
Thank you.
flower arrangement there.
They keep coming.
They do.
It's
Get faster and faster the more you have to. All right, this is going to be a fun Executive Director report because we had an outstanding month. We're having an outstanding year. So proud of the team that we've got in front of us. So again, October highlights, we've got some photos to kind of kick it off. These events that are highlighted here, they're in the middle. We've got a Boise Center Hall of Wow. We obviously try to do everything Wowgistics related that we can. That was a dark day on Halloween for the center. There was just a move in. So we talked to the client, let them know we were going to allow some dress up. So everybody got kind of dressed up for the holiday. It was a fun little culture team building thing that we did and was well received by all of our staff. I mean, just the laughter throughout the hallways that day, everything. I can tell you that adds some fuel in the tank when we're in the type of months that we've been the last two. So National Association of Extension of 4-H Youth Development Professionals on the left there. One of the largest, it is the largest revenue generating event in the history of Boise Center. And then CIKM 2024 Association for Computing Machinery was also a very large in our top 10 of our revenue generating events. So we had two conventions that were outstanding revenue generators for the Boise Center.
Cody, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah,
Tim
absolutely.
said he's having issues with the link.
He just joined.
Okay,
It's working. It's working now.
okay.
Welcome, Kim.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, did you say that this convention was bigger than the St. Al's winter party or?
Yes, as far as revenue generation goes, yes. It is our largest revenue generating event in the history of Boise Center.
And what is it?
4-H is, it's like I'll defer to Ally here.
It's like farm and ag development and their programs.
But these are the advisors. These aren't the kids.
University Program directors and yes. Yeah.
They're a youth program, and so this is all their development people, and they were all over the place to learn about how to kind of run 4-H clubs all across.
in the center. So it's a national deal.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous updates, we had a facility manager attend our National Facilities Management Technology Conference. So that's a national conference there that they were able to attend. I attended with Lori Brown from our sales team, IMEX in early October. I've kind of spoke about that. So, but it was so early in October, I just wanted to put in these updates. And then 23 total events in October, historical record revenue month, exceeds our previous record set by 33% last month. So that's something that I'm excited to share the numbers with you guys. 9 conventions equaling 1.3 million in revenue with over 6,000 room nights, about 5.8 million in economic impact. So this month is a banner month. This last month was a banner month for Boise Center. And then 14 non-conventions helped really drive that revenue as well, with 378,000 in revenue and a 1.2 million in economic impact. Yeah, we're proud. Just shy of 800,000 in food and beverage revenues for October, 2 events alone. Those were those 2 that I just highlighted, over 200,000 just in food and beverage alone from that. So kind of shows you the team, I can really tell you, is feeling the pinch of the busyness, but they've done a great job maintaining our quality of services. And I'll get into that a little bit later with the views from the events. Sales, monthly hotel group review meetings commence in November. So that this week we're starting to meet with the directors of the hotels again, figure out what we can do to try to get, when this is a quarterly thing that we're doing with them, and making sure, or monthly that we're doing with different hotels all over on this one. So getting ahead of that conversation that we've talked about, whether it's the 30 or 50 additional rooms that we need to get those prime pieces of business or potentially other business as well. We're really focused on those prime leads and making sure that we can turn those into conversions if possible. Vertical aviation confirmed for December of 2025 and November of 2026, and that's 275 room nights, 110,000 in revenue, and 172,000 economic impact each. So again, sales team continues to do really great stuff. Share some of that as well. But now is the fun part. Yes, you get to look at the revenue in the orange line there, as I spoke about in August. I remember talking to you guys and saying, I think these next 2 months are gonna jump way up above. And they have jumped up above in a way that even made my jaw hit the floor when I saw the numbers come out. We wanted to double check the numbers and make sure they were all correct. But almost a $1.7 million month alone, a 1.691. Outstanding in particular, another all-time record for Boise Center. And that pushes up above our goal of what we had, or our budget of the 10.6. So we're at 11 million. Now festival will be coming and there's some other events in November. So we're gonna continue to push, but festival will fall into next year. So just to keep that in mind. When we have months like this, our gross profit does really good things in particular. And so we jumped back up to a 22.1% on the year so far, year to date, which is outstanding. So as I'm working on goals for next year, I think this is one that I'm comfortable probably bumping up a little higher, but next year will not probably look like this banner year either. So we need to be mindful of that. But overall, the team does a great job of continuing to manage the revenues and our expenses. I added in, so one change that I did do, we got the SDR report this morning. So the packets that you were sent earlier do not have those numbers in them. And we're gonna update those when we update the website afterwards with this deck. This deck does include October numbers that I received from the SDR report today. I thought it was important because there's some interesting takeaways there that I found. And as we get into the financial report, the amount of taxes versus some of the occupancies and the revenues don't quite compute to me. So we're gonna ask the tax commission why that is. But as you're taking a look at this, October was a $22.4 million month. As far as the lodging room revenues. Now that's district related group 1 hotels, but we get 5% of that. And then if you look at September, which was a record tax collection year or month for us last month, they were at 21.8. So something to pay attention to there. As we get the report going a little bit further here, and then we get into demand. Again, demand was up from prior year. And it was up from prior month as well. So some of that would tell me that we were gonna have another record tax collection revenue month, and that did not happen. And so I'm trying to find out why that is, but some of that is in this mix here a little bit. And as you're looking at it, the ADRs are up overall from the prior month by about $2, just shy of $2, about $1.90. So it was 161.80 and last month was 159. So it was exactly a $2 jump, to be honest. Yes, exactly $2 jump. So that's up, and then your occupancies as well from September and was 75.9 and 74.7. So it went and dipped a little bit, but with the additional ADR and the additional all that other stuff, I would think that revenues would have came in fairly close, and there was a substantial difference, and we'll have that reported when Stephanie gets to that report. It's something that we're paying attention to, and I'm going to reach out to the tax commission to ask why that is. So this is the static slide that kind of shows and paces our year end. I'll have this in the next, or actually be in January of where this finishes off for the fiscal year, basically, or non-fiscal year, but the annual year is how SDR reports. Future book business. This is one that the team might want to celebrate the sales team's efforts this year. They met their goals, and we set a different standard of the goals this year. Instead of it just being the number of leads, it was really on future booked business. And the team met all their goals, exceeded all their goals, and met those goals. So I'm excited to share that with the board today. And then, as you can look, as the future booked economic impact for the month, 1.373, and again pacing slightly behind the future year, but right on pace for some goals. So, and then future room nights booked 2,249 in the current month. And then you can kind of see the difference between the year to date prior and where we are year to date. We're ahead on those. Actually, we are ahead on the other one too. I was looking at that backwards. The yellow or the orange is this year to date. So event attendance. This is one that we don't really get to control, but we report on and we have goals set for. Again, really proud of the team here as we're continuing to pace. Now, obviously, Festival of Trees is going to be an interesting one to see where those numbers fall because they're going to fall into December. So I think we might end up a little bit shy of this one because of that number hitting into December. So I'll make sure I correct that. But overall, this is a very good number, a record for October on attendance of 15,127. So speaks to the record revenues and the conventions, and local business that we had. Again, economic impact. So there's a broken record, but we have been another record that we set for economic impact. And that should say economic impact instead of revenues. Right, that. 7 million just in October alone, which is outstanding. So as you can look at the month, this was a record month for the year and also a record for Boise Center in its history. And now we are at our goal and we're exceeding it. So as this is the goals I'm working on for next year, That's a record. We went back even post-COVID and has corrected with the DI model is because we were using another model prior. Or not, we were using the Destination International model prior, but we added that local attendance piece. And when I went back and looked at all of our events, this is still a record, even if you go back in history post-COVID is where we corrected all of those economic impacts going forward, so. And then continue to see really great scores, and this is one that I just get a lot of pride from as I read the reviews from our clients and guests. Response rate was down slightly just from the month events in October, down about 0.8%, so not a whole lot, but overall we continued to see only 4s and 5s last month added into the mix. This is an overall for the experience at Boise Center, and then they do get into department scores. Those I have Julie report to you guys on her biannual basis. Department to department. Some challenges, and this is the slide that I report each month. Keeping pace with fiscal year 24 is going to be a challenge. This was a banner year. I think we spoke about this over and over again. Now, it could be projected as a down year next year. I look at it more like it's the normalizing that we're seeing from all that compression that we've spoke about over and over. Team is actively sourcing new and repeat business. So I've got the local side that they're looking at repeat business that maybe we had to displace because we did more conventions and going back to them to see if they are interested in coming back to the center again. And then as well as just sourcing new business from the convention side. It was a big takeaway for me at IMEX was there's quite a bit of business even in October of this year that we're still looking for dates in 25. So we're hopeful that we can lock some of those in. We are a finalist for one of those conventions right now. I think we're down to the top 2 or 3 for one of them that we're working on, and I'll share that with the board once we hopefully get that one locked in. We are doing our part to make sure we're booking the future business as best as possible. Staffing with a record event demand in October. So what I put on this side is there's such thing, this is a Pat Rice quote, there's good overtime and there's bad overtime. And this last month was good overtime. To staff up for that level of business, to do a 1.7, we're not going to keep full-time people. We're going to have to use some of our people extra hours. Even through our staffing levels that we were at, that put us in a position where the culinary team was in there for very long hours. So I signed some overtime checks that I was proud to sign because that revenue justified those overtimes. So proud of the team to make it through. We continue, that's one thing from month to month. If you look at August and then look at October, those are 2 drastically different months than what you need from a staffing perspective. So making sure we're being fiscally responsible, but then when we need to expand, we're doing it in a responsible way. So. And then fiscal year end coming up at the end of this month. So I just put here, teamwork makes the dream work. It's taking all of us to get there. And I would recognize our finance team as we're coming up on November 30th. All the directors are trying hard to get all their invoices in. You got a holiday in there, but we're anticipating a record revenue year as you guys have seen happen. So excited to be able to share that next month with you guys. With that, I'll stand for any questions. I have a couple other things I just want to add that aren't in here. I talked about the updated slides. Viewglass, the lawsuit was filed, but we haven't heard anything back yet. So we have filed the lawsuit to see if we would get any movement from them. Right now, they've been quiet. So.
Do you have a date for response?
I think, Madam Chair, would be up, it probably would be in the next few days, but it's traditional. Folks will ask for an extension, which normally is granted. So but likely we'll hear something in the next week or so.
Yeah, we were just gathering all of our communications and stuff for the legal side on that is where we're at right now on that. Julie visited the aquatic center this last week on Friday, got some photos. And so we're moving forward with a hard bid process on the parking lot to get you guys some numbers on that as well. So I'll update that next month. But the facility was, you can go ahead and speak to it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, you guys keep it very organized and it's, yeah, didn't have anything to report. So I volunteered at the Blind Athlete Association. They had some positive feedback, just working with Chelsea and them too. They were setting up there. So it was good timing for me. Say hi to them as well, so.
We're gonna start popping over there just a little more often to check on things, not because we don't think it, we just want to check on things as the building owner side. But again, very good feedback I'm hearing from everything and I'll be checking in on as often, so.
Okay, any questions?
When are we gonna have a parking lot?
Well, it sounds like next month you'll have,
The hard bid number process on that, yes, because I'm getting that all wrapped up. So I believe I'll have bid numbers for you guys
okay,
at that December meeting.
okay.
So.
And then
Oh,
we,
I mean,
And it's up to you
we're
guys
done,
to decide
right?
whether-
Board,
yeah,
done.
It's in the
Yeah.
budget. It's up to you guys to decide whether you want to go forward.
I think
with
we
it.
just have to vote once we get the numbers in from the bid of do it or not do it, right? And then you would take on and move forward and it'd be springtime.
Yes.
Well, if it's in the budget, why can't we just do it? Or have
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if it
We-
would need budget or board approval. I would just
Okay.
recommend that we get board to sign off on the project because considering the cost, that would be my recommendation, but I would take legal advice
Yeah.
and board's direction as well.
Yeah, so it's up to the, certainly up to the board's discretion, but, I mean, obviously I think when you all talked about it before, you thought that you would at least revisit the discussion, once you were.
Madam Chair, I'm just concerned about the board weighing in on line item budgets.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends too on price. If it comes in at 800,000, well, that's not in, so, right?
Participating just shy of 500, 450,000 is what I'm anticipating. Ballpark, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yep.
Cody, do you know if the parking lot is in compliance with the new planning and zoning rules from the city?
I don't, that was something that was brought to my attention last month and I kind of looked into it, but I do not know. I'm not an expert in that area, but it was brought to my attention that that changed recently and that might impact our plan to do what we were wanting to do on the parking lot.
We should probably just check on that. I've heard of another project whose parking lot got squashed. Not a high risk, just something to look into.
Okay,
And you were gonna work with engineering to figure out the specs for the bid, right?
correct.
Okay, so that probably part of that process.
They would be the ones that would highlight that if there's a plan. And I know there was some talk about that when I originally got kind of early quotes on just a ballpark. So I kind of knew, is this a procurement or is this not? And it naturally is, but yeah. So they mentioned some things about grading and the zoning and also getting number of ins and outs and how many parking spots you have if you have an exit. I think that we'd have to put in that second street exit to be in compliance.
I've seen people driving around it anyway, so it's already being used as a driveway.
I think they put some rocks up over there, I believe, to try to deter that as best.
That was for the truck stop. We were getting trucks backing into there, so we put the blocks up to keep the trucks from backing in. They were coming in overnight, so it's a safety concern.
I don't know that this is a new parking lot. This is maintenance, right?
Ways overboard.
It's already a parking lot. It's
Yeah, we're
just dirt.
Oh, true. True.
Yeah,
So
we're expanding the current lot, so yeah. Not new.
Well, Madam Chair, I thought we took care of this item last month, but for staff need to implement it. And then there was the issue around the TM's favorite skating rink that I see is under construction.
Mhm.
And I assume the board is done with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's done. That was,
that's done.
what the board did on this one was empower me to basically move forward with the hard bid
Right.
process on the
Okay.
parking lot.
Thank you.
And then an update back to the board, but it doesn't need board approval, but that's up to the board, so.
On to Stephanie.
All right, hi there. Happy belated birthday. Here is your treasury report. Boise Center revenue is a little over $11 million. These are all year-to-date numbers, just keep in mind. District is at 11.6, just shy of 11.7, and 410 is what we've received from the aquatics. This takes into consideration the 11 months of payment, and we did just issue a credit for them for their room discounts. And so they did receive a credit just shy of 32,000. So that's what it all is balanced out. I was gonna save those numbers for when we closed out November and came back with a year end for you guys, but your expenses are listed there, 16 million, district is at 230,000. Revenues and expenses, is the differential there. You're just a little about $1.8 million between what's been budgeted and what the actual is. So you'll see when I get to the transfers that there was not any for this month because of the banner month that was had. So tax revenues, as Cody pointed out, for October, 1.1. We are doing a little research as to why, given the ADR and the occupancy rating, so
I would have
we'll
thought
Yeah,
that
that
would came in
doesn't make
closer
sense.
to a 1.3 number, to be honest. I
Yeah.
thought maybe it was down a little, but I didn't expect a variance of that.
right.
So sometimes they do come back when the SDR report will come out the following month. Numbers that they've accrued them from the prior month will show up and I update that in my slides as I go. But yeah, there are times where I've seen the prior month have other numbers get updated. And so I'm wondering if that's gonna happen.
But in your report on the tax revenue, it was like what,
What's that?
23 million for the STR report, 23 million,
Yeah.
22 something?
2.4,
And what was the month prior?
21.
21.
Lower.
Yeah.
So how can,
No, we're on it.
Okay.
We understand.
Immediately, I just
Raise
got
an
that this
eyebrow
morning
too.
and I went, this isn't, and I wanted to put it in there for discussion, which is why I updated it. Normally I don't always update it, but I was like, this is an interesting
should be
takeaway.
over 1.3.
So we'll find out.
Like you said, the STR report was just received this morning, and so there could be some adjustments there on their end. So we will definitely follow up and report back to you guys. Here's your transfer report. As I stated, because of the banner month, there were no transfers. There was no subsidy necessary. So nothing to report there. This is the investment page, showing what the book value at the accrued totals are. We are sitting at 25.6. Oh, sorry, that was last month, 25.7. Again, one of the numbers that you guys always love to see is the interest income. So this last month was $56,637. The district cash position right now, we're sitting at 29 million. Again, restricted funds, we keep those static at 250,000. Stabilization fund, that was 6 million. So take that and the cash available for projects, and that is the health of the district right now. Any questions? Perfect. Love it.
I'd move approval, Madam Chair.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Steve. Okay, Alden Reberger.
Madam Chairman. So let me run through a little bit what we saw happening last Tuesday night. We all know the historic election of the president. Last time that happened was Grover Cleveland, who's the 23rd and 25th president. Now Donald Trump will be the 45th, 47th president. At our federal level, what happened is as we look, we're gonna have Senator Mike Crapo will be chairman of with the newly elected Senate Republican majority in the Senate. Mike Crapo is gonna be the chairman of the Finance Committee, which is arguably one of the most, if not the most powerful committee in the Senate. Jim Risch will be chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, which is obviously one of the most powerful committees in the Senate. On the House side, we have Mike Simpson, who is the second ranking of all the members in the House Appropriations Committee. The two most important committees in the House are House Appropriations, Tax Ways and Means, and then the Energy and Commerce Committee. Mike will be second ranking. He's been terrific for the state of Idaho. He'll be leading on appropriations in the House. And then Russ Fulcher will be on the Energy and Commerce Committee. He may get a very influential subcommittee chairmanship there, or on the Resource Committee, which he'll be probably maybe subcommittee chairman of the Public Lands Committee, which we're 67% public lands, so it can be very important. And I think we could arguably say that our delegation could be the most powerful delegation in the United States. I mean, it's incredible what the seniority and where these members are going to fall out in this new Congress. And just a quick aside, I'll go into the state. It's a little more dicey in the state. The House elected 15 new members. Okay, so we have a 29-6. I'm sorry, in the House, we have a 61-9 majority. Republicans do. And that super majority is going to create a whole lot of chaos. And here's why. Of the 15 newly elected, 2 Democrats, one from 17, one from 19, 13 new Republicans elected. Of the 13 new Republicans, 3 of them are what I would consider, I break it out, I don't know the way to break it out other than there's the kind of what we call the Freedom Foundation, hard right Republican, and then what I call Ronald Reagan Republicans, which were
you know, there to kind of make law and do the right thing. That's a 13-3 breakout is 10 of them went to the Freedom Foundation, 3 went to the other side. When you shift that out and you look at, you know, John and I and Phil, we break out all these numbers all the time, trying to see where we stand. The super majority of 61-9, 30 plus fall to the Freedom Foundation. So in the House caucus, they may very well have a majority, and Mike Moyle tends to lean that way. So we could see some really interesting legislation moving out of the House or not moving at all. And that's still left to be seen. Now, in the leadership of that, Mike Moyle is going to be the speaker. He's not challenged. Those elections are going to be on December 4th for the leadership of the House and Senate. Mike's not challenged. Jason Monks, who'll be the majority leader, is not challenged. We have an open seat for assistant majority leader is going to be open. There's 6 legislators running for that. And then the caucus chairman, they have Justin Manwaring, who won his seat back, is being challenged in that by a couple of other folks, I guess. That what could happen and what we could see happening in the House and the Senate, I'll discuss that in a minute, is if you have 31 hard right Republicans wanting to run something, the minority of the caucus, if you will, what I call the Ronald Reagans, could shift over and team up with some of the Democrats and actually defeat some of the legislation that's being perpetuated by the hard right. I mean, so I think you're going to see an interesting move that we haven't seen in the past, where you're going to see a lot more Democrat involvement. I mean, they could be swing votes on some of these very interesting school choice, tax cut, wherever it is, you know, they could be turned into swing votes where in the past they weren't. In the Senate, it's a 29-6 majority, super majority. And of that 29, it is literally 15, 14. You count it, each vote, you're going to count a 15, 14 breakout between the Freedom Foundation folks and the Ronald Reagan Republicans. Then you have the 6, you know, kind of pro-business Democrats in the body. That body right now is totally up in the air. The leadership, as you know, Chuck Winter, the pro tem, was defeated in May, which we're going to have a new pro tem. We're going to have a new majority leader, a new assistant majority leader. You're going to have a new caucus chair. So all of the leadership of the Senate are going to be new. And Kelly Anthon is this former majority leader, is running for pro tem, the leader of the Senate, against a guy by the name of Doug Okonowitz. He's from District 3 up in Coeur d'Alene. And that's going to be the classic fight. Kelly Anthon is a kind of a Reagan Republican. Doug Okonowitz is going to be hard right. And we've counted this thing. How many times do we sit around and it is a 1 vote swing in that election. We count kind of 13-13, it's 29. And there's 3 voting around out there. We don't know, you know, where they're going to fall. You know, I think Cody Galloway is going to be a swing vote. Who else is swinging? Ben Adams are going to swing out there from Canyon County, and Scott Grove. So it's going to be anybody's guess down to the wire. It depends on who you talk to, who says who they think will be the winner in that race. I think Kelly Anthon has a good chance because he has a lot of Senate experience. He's run the Senate as majority leader. I think he would be the best for that job, and not voting. So that is going to be critical. The governor's watching it closely, everybody, because the Senate has always been the backstop to crazy stuff that comes out of the House. And if those folks win in the Senate, you know, again, it could be Katie bar the door. It's kind of the saving grace in that if they start running some of this really radical legislation. Again, in the Senate, the Ronald Reagan Republicans are all the ones that are the kind of the senior Republicans, all the chairmen of the committees. I could see them in that circumstance teaming up with the Senate Democrats. And they could team up and actually start defeating some of this legislation. Something we haven't seen in a long time. It's very interesting how this could play out. So we'll all know that in another couple of weeks. Real quick on the budget, we filtered out all the ARPA, all the COVID money kind of out of the system. Two years ago, we had $1 billion surplus. This year, I think the surplus, they're talking what, 60 to 100 million probably in that area, maybe 150 tops. But we've got the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee met this morning, and they were talking about what the budget looks like for the session. $60 million they owe in fires. They want to spend $50 to $80 million on a new school choice legislation bill. Mike Moyle wants another $50 million tax cut. Medicare, which we haven't even addressed yet, is $400 million. But that's a 70-30 breakout, so it's only $130 million or whatever it is. There's a $108 million shortfall in the new behavioral health contract that they just let last year with the new company. Health and welfare just asked for 104 new employees. I don't know what that's going to cost, but anyway, all these costs are starting to roll in, and there's not a big budget there. So this will be one of our first years where we're going to see a lot of people coming in with money, and there's no money to give out. We've had we have probably 5 or 6 legislators that have been through a balanced budget, zero budget session before. And we have literally the entire body have never seen a zero budget or deficit budget legislative session. They've always had surpluses. So these people have never been in a situation where they have to actually look at cuts. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they react to that. I think that to me is going to be the most interesting part is all these new people like, well, we've always had money. It's like, well, sorry, not this year. And those are big numbers. I mean, we're looking at big numbers here. I just don't know yet how that's all going to play out. But this is going to be one of those years I'm hearing around the state, everyone's walking softly on bringing anything new forward. I think they're going to look at, it's going to be a budgetary session. School choice is going to be probably one of the top issues. I know the governor's talking about doing something with school choice. I know the House has a couple of bills. Debbie Critchfield, the Department of Education, has a bill. There's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 of these bills floating around, but I think that's something that may get done this year. And again, Mike Moyle wants to do another tax cut. His problem is he's done 5 tax cuts in a row, 5 years. We're getting to equilibrium where, there's not a lot of money left over at the end of the session with the budget and how he's cut taxes. I was talking to Cody earlier today, and he was saying that you're starting to see a more normal trend in our trend lines on how this business is developing. That's what we're starting to see back in the legislature, more of a historic trend line of how much money we're going to have, left over in the budget with the ARPA money, all that stuff getting cleaned out. Well, Mike keeps dropping that down, and it's going to start cutting into the meat of the budget. I think that could be problematic. So I don't know where his tax cut's going to go this year, but it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, he bowled it through last year, again this year. And on top of that, the governor's office, their staff is a new staff. Alex Adams, who led it for the governor last year, went over to run health and welfare. They brought 2 new people in. Jamie Neal will be their policy director, and Hayden Rogers, young guy, is going to be the legislative guy. So that's there's a new group of folks there too. So yeah, it'll be very interesting year. I wish I could make some predictions right now, but I can't.
Have they ever seen it where there's that many new leadership, 5 years?
I've never seen that. Historically, the Senate has always run in a system where you have somebody who knows how to run this. It's really important. From procedure perspective, you always want to have someone who knows how to run the body, keep the trains running on time, moving it through. And this, you could actually have a situation this year where nobody in the body, in the Senate has ever stood in leadership, and running it is not easy. I mean, it's procedural, it's policy, there's a lot going on there. And I guess that's what concerns me the most. That's why I think Kelly Anthony, I think they've got to have someone in there that knows how to run the place.
With the way that they changed how the budget was passed last year, are they doing that same thing again this year?
So that's what I'm gonna try. Zero based, but a zero budget. They're already starting to talk about that, how they're gonna come in and say, okay, they're gonna try, I know that the House wants to do that. We don't know in the Senate yet because we don't have a new chairman. That's the other thing we're gonna see, all new chairmen in the Senate. So it's gonna be musical chairs in the Senate, wherever, who was there that last year may be different. You'd have same names probably, but different chairmanship. The 4 chairmen that were on JFAC last year are all gonna go off at JFAC probably and take committee chairmanship, because they're not gonna allow, if you're a chairman of a standing committee, they're not gonna allow you to work on the appropriations committee anymore. So they're all gonna move off probably, except for Dave Lent. Dave Lent wants to stay on appropriations. He wants to get rid of education. Because that's a loaded committee for him. So again, as we talk to everybody around the state on this, on what's gonna happen, until we see how the Senate structures itself, we have no idea until we see those chairmanship fall into place, who's gonna be in leadership. Then you can start structuring what it's gonna look like to move a piece of legislation, just movement. Until we see how that breaks out, it's gonna be very, very difficult for us to kind of build any strategy around it. Doug Okonowitz has never been in leadership. He's held chairmanship he's only been in the Senate for 2 years. And he was the chairman of the Transportation Committee, but has never really shown a lot of leadership on any of the issues that kind of came before the body. So.
Anything that you see already kind of hitting our docket?
No, but there's gonna be a large element of government haters. And, they will perceive this is this, we're always watching these issues to see, because this is, we know it's not, we know how this operates. We know how the taxes come in, but they always perceive this as like, well, that's a government program, or this is a government program. And so we're always watching that because, there's gonna be those people that are gonna come in and really want to cut. Josh Tanner over in West Boise, he wants to cut everything. He wants to send money back to the federal government. He literally has said, we need to send our money back to the federal government. Well, 90-10 transportation money for every dollar we spend, $10 comes from the federal government. Same with health and welfare, 70-30. For every $100 that we spend, 70 of it's federal government. But there will be a move by a number of legislators to say, well, we just need to send that money back to the federal government. And with that mentality, I think you really start watching all of these things that have any sort of public interest in it.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I just gotta tell you. We've been in finance and budgeting, particularly, we've been talking about changing our year end. And it turns out that in order to do that, we have to change the statute. And we've been hesitant to change the statute because once you open it, then it invites people to make other changes. So I've been encouraging Stephanie and the staff to just do a housekeeping budget change. For example, when we were researching this, we discovered that all the pronouns in our statute are male. So, just a housekeeping routine change like that, and then we slip in the year end. Well, I was chatting with our consultants earlier, and they said, actually, the year end may not be a problem, but pronouns would be.
I'll guarantee you. Director, if, I'm telling you, if we bring that in there and you're gonna raise, they'll raise, holy hell with that. Now, if we just go in with the end of the year stuff, we go, all right, but that pronoun, it'll be a hot button. And if you know. what's
So
happening-
Stephanie, it sounds like we'll be doing this next year.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
Good find though. Good idea.
Thanks. Thank you.
Only in Idaho. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Then just for the education of the board as well, the Nampa Auditorium District has sent that out past as well.
Right.
You know, is there anything that you guys are hearing from that front at all that's causing?
None. I think if anything, it certainly helps us with builds a delegation for us. You know, now we have Idaho Falls, Boise, Nampa. You know, I think that really helped with some of those legislators over there. Yeah, that's positive. I see it. Very positive.
Agreed.
Then, Madam Chair, the one thing would just be to, you guys can keep an eye out for, are because we're more like a business, and so we have lots of contracts with, people to use our events and stuff. So all the creative legislation that they put in about things we have to put in our contracts. I know it makes it challenging for the staff when we have to explain to people why we need a representation about the fact that somebody doesn't provide abortions, or the fact that somebody is not boycotting Israel. Those are challenging. And so the law of unintended consequences, I think it just makes,
Right.
when you're more like a business than a government, it's, I think, challenging because you have to explain to people why they need stuff which they would normally never see in a contract. So.
Right. And council, that's this year, I think we're gonna really be on our toes, watching everything that comes, it's developed. You know, this isn't a year to go out and move a bunch of stuff forward. This isn't an aggressive year for legislation. This is what I call a defensive year. Watch things come in because, a lot of what we do in our business, not moving a bill is not necessarily what makes you successful. It's killing all the bad stuff that's out there. And that's one of the things that we'll be stomping a lot of stuff out this year. And a lot of it will be, I think, a lot of the DEI type woke and things that could very well affect this body. We'll be watching closely. Appreciate you. Madam Chair.
Yep, thanks. Wait, Josh?
Madam Chair, gentlemen, board, thank you. From politics to swimming, I like it. Appreciate that, Cody. First and foremost, you're always welcome at the facility, everyone. I know I do see some familiar faces here. I'm always there, it feels like, so always appreciate the visit from the good old GBAD partners. Appreciate the opportunity to come. I'm replacing Ryan, so I want to go through the financials, so the economic impact, the operational impact, but also I'm going to talk a little bit about the community impact and some of the things that we've seen here recently. Northwest Community for the Blind was there last Friday, in a smaller group, but the whole section that I was sitting in the bleachers were cheering them on as they played water polo. So it's exciting that we do get to see the impact that the facility has for even small groups of the community. So I'll make sure to touch on that at the end. So first things first, the reports for operation, we are going to go to calendar. Ryan had always presented this on a fiscal year, trying to keep up from the date we opened. That's become challenging for him mostly. So we're going to go back to a calendar year. I also agree it looks better from a seasonality standpoint. We do, as Cody talked a little bit about when and how you guys operate. We also see that in the summer months when things are nice and cozy and people want to swim outside, we get and attract more of the bigger events. And those are the events that we're typically looking for, especially from an economic impact. So you will see going forward, it will be quarter to date and then year end, not from the weird, I think it was May date that we'd had before. So revenues are up over budgeted. Unfortunately, that did come with increased expenses. A lot of that is the cost to play. So most of the growth that we're seeing is in our Learn to Swim program. So that's the swim lessons, people coming in. When you have more swim lessons, you hire more instructors. And so we've seen an increase in cost associated with that, which has offset some of that increase in revenue. We've also had some increased in expenses for maintenance, pool filter media, things like that. I think we are past some of the bigger expenses some of those hardships that we had in the past. But unfortunately, high use means we have to replace things to get those set up. So while still behind a little bit on budget, still encouraged, I still think of us and Ryan would agree with this as a startup. 2 years into the business, we weren't projecting to be in the black at that point in time, but we are encouraged, especially with the Learn to Swim program, with the growth that we've seen there for future revenue increases. Moving forward, we'll talk about the economic impact. So these are the events that we do, primarily driven by the bigger national events. Of the 1.8 million you see in direct impact, almost 40 to 50% of that came from one event that we had in the summer. That's age group zones. That's where we had some of the top swimmers, 14 and under, from Oregon, Montana, Nevada, Arizona, and even in California. I think there was like 600 swimmers. We were packed with parents and visitors, just like we had last year. We had the big vans parked out front and loading and unloading swimmers. So that tends to be, or was in 2024, our biggest economic impact. But we did add some additional swim meets in the summer. We had summer champs. Sawtooth, one of the clubs, also ran their own meet in the winter, which added a little bit. So outside of the big one-hit wonders like zones, we are starting to see some of the smaller events trickle in there.
Is zones on a repeat or is it on a rotational basis, or how does it bid each year?
So that's a great question. We got it 2 years in a row. It is a bid process. So whatever the facility is, we have to put into a bid to USA Swimming, and then that zone will choose who that host is. We got it 2 years in a row. Next year, I believe it went to Sacramento. Again, I'd have to check with Ryan to be exact. But we will be putting in for age group zones because that is a great meet. I personally think we did a fantastic job, but I may be biased on that. It is a bid process. We do need to get approved. Traditionally, it does rotate. And I get it, right? Swimmers won't, this is a big meet. Some of the best swimmers at that age group, and they like to go to different places, experience different things. So I do get it, but we will be applying.
Are there other similar events that take place during that same time that you guys are planning on going after on kind of a rotational basis to try to get that?
Yeah, so what we do with Brian and Chelsea and everyone, we're trying to put a process together to balance the bringing in these outside events, but also not impact our Learn to Swim. We can't be closing down every weekend because as much as I believe our Learn to Swim parents are loyal, they keep getting the notices that they can't come swim because we've got the facility closed down, then they're going to go back to Goldfish. They're going to go back to the YMCA. So it is a balance. What we do is we look at what the meet schedule is. Fortunately, USA Swimming puts this out well in advance. You have 12 months to know what big national events are going to be available that we are going to put in for those events. So I was going to talk about this later, but that's a good segue. So how did we replace zones? We didn't get it this year. Sectionals, which is the next tier up. So these are your kids that are 18 and under above the zones level. We actually are having that in March this year. We've already done sectionals once, which was successful. It was our first major event that we had at the facility. And then the next weekend, we're doing Northwest age group regionals at the facility as well. Those two are projected to be the same economic impact that we had for zones this last summer. So we had to replace one with two, but again, now we add ourselves to that rotation. So hopefully we can put ourselves in front of them, the decision makers there, so we can get those meets on a more rotational basis. But we do need to balance that. We cannot have the big events every weekend because our Learn to Swim program families will probably be picketing us at the door or in our parking lot. So projected economic impact, we do have an increase over last year, even without zones. I mentioned Sawtooth. Sawtooth is doing 2 separate meets. We did get the summer champs. We have the sectionals. And then we have this weekend actually the first college event. So University of Idaho. So we have the Vandal Invite, which I will classify as our first international because we have a Canadian swim team coming down to swim. And then hopefully we'll see that on a repeat basis, but that's this next weekend. They already signed up again for next year. So I do think that the pipeline for 2025 looks good. We're still out there trying to fill that. And then we need to start looking at 2026 to hopefully hit some of these impact goals from an economic perspective. So great segue, Cody. Upcoming events, I covered some of this. The two big ones are listed there back to back in March. So that's the Northwest Speedo Sectional and then the Northwest Age Group Sectionals. You see 500 swimmers in each of those. Both of those do bring in parents. So speaking about putting heads in beds, those usually tend to be our best events. So very reminiscent of what zones are. So I'm encouraged that we have those on the schedule. Good to see the local swim clubs put on events as well. And then Snake River Swimming, which controls all the swim clubs in the area. They have already hosted Snake River Champs last summer. We have it again this summer, and then we also have it again next summer. So we're able to line that up. Not as we get some swimmers from like Idaho Falls, Twin Falls, Pocatello. We don't get anyone from up north. They're part of a different area, but we do bring in outside of the Boise Treasure Valley area for that summer champs as well. And then to finish it off, we always talk about the economic impact, heads and beds, but we also need to remember that we are trying to do this to help benefit the community. We are doing this to help benefit the community. 2,800 unique participants in our Learn to Swim program. That also brings staff members. We got 25 lifeguards / swim instructors that are out there changing lanes, learning how to, most of them are high school students or just out of high school. 59,000 visits to the facility year to date. So parking issues or not, we still get people into the facility visiting us on a daily basis. Daycare and refugee program, what are we doing to help benefit the community? Chelsea Johnson, our executive director, does a great job reaching out to the different daycares and then depending on need, making sure that the families in that daycare that may not be able to afford it get a little bit of a discount so they can come back to the facility. Those kids can learn how to swim. And we have several refugee families that are coming into the facility and also learning how to swim. So, again, it is more of an ad hoc. It's not a scholarship this big, but Chelsea and ICA are trying to do what we can to make sure that those kids and those underprivileged communities are getting access to the pool, not just our elite swimmers from California. It is providing a local community support mechanism, especially when it comes to learning how to swim. And last but not least, I mentioned her name a couple times, Chelsea Johnson, the executive director. She was awarded the Inspire Excellence in Leadership. Again, that's a community board that puts together awards or recognition for helping our youth, Idaho youth, be successful. So they had a nice banquet over there at Jump for her. They recognized her. They did this nice little video presentation that showed her coaching, I think, for BK. She is a side gig, does the coaching for one of the high schools here. So wanted to make sure to recognize her achievement there. I'm sure we could forward over that video to Cody and maybe pass it around if you guys would like to take a look at it some other time. So that being said, that's all the remarks I had prepared. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes.
Would you say that the pool's pretty full? I mean, all the times I remember back at the beginning, there was a schedule of different things that could be potential. Is it staying pretty full most of the time, or is there spots that can fill in?
I'd say that the Learn to Swim program is full at certain hours. So we can, and I know Chelsea's working on trying to fill those in the off hours. So if you go to the pool at any time after 4 to 6, it looks like there is absolutely no space in there at all. But there are times during the day, especially during the school year, where we have water space that is available. So that's one of the daycare programs. So Chelsea goes out to the daycares and tries to bring in those kids where we have the extra capacity. So I'd say we're not to capacity and we have opportunities to grow. We are seeing growth in the Learn to Swim program. The growth was really good at the first part of, getting the doors open, and it started to teeter off. I can't remember exactly what those numbers are. But yes, growth is good. We're not 100% to capacity. Would like to see Some of the swim clubs, we do have 2 swim clubs that are there, and we are seeing growth in terms of lane usage for them in the big pool, the competition pool. That's probably our best area for growth in those peak use times, to getting those guys in there. The swim clubs aren't as good revenue margin for us because they're able to throw like 30 kids in one lane and only pay for the one lane. We actually do better on the All-Star program, which is kind of the not competitive swim through the LaBoy Swim Academy, where we're putting in 4 or 5 kids and they're learning how to be competitive type swimmers. And we've seen growth in that, and I think that would help.
Is that where you guys anticipate, because you talked about kind of operating in the black, is that where you see the biggest opportunity for revenue growth for you guys?
I'd say the Learn to Swim program is still the best opportunity for revenue growth, where we can fill in space to what I was misunderstanding. Like, can we just fill the pool?
Yeah.
That big pool probably offers the most opportunity to get folks in there, but that Learn to Swim program offers the best revenue growth. Like I said, the swim clubs are great, but they can put more kids in there and swim it a little bit more. I don't want to say function, but they can put them all in there and they can swim it, use more space efficiently. Whereas at the Learn to Swim, we want to have more space so the kids have flexibility to learn how to swim, feel a little bit less pressure, things like that. So, does that answer? Good question. Thank you.
I think you kind of touched upon this, but Learn to Swim, I think you were at 700 now. I think at some point you were around the 800-900. So has it kind of done
So that's a great question. I'd have to ask Ryan to, I thought we'd been underneath that, but maybe we have been. I don't know that off the top of my head, so sorry. I'll ask Ryan to follow up with the board. What's been our peak? And then where are we at today in relation to that? From what I gather, we had been growing. I do think you might be correct. We may have reported some higher numbers there. I would say that's enrollments. We do see enrollments in the summer higher than we do see during the school year. Other sports, winter sports, people don't like to get out of their car in their swim trunks or from the place to their swim trunks. So we do see it a little bit on the, I don't want to say the downside, but it's slower in the winter months. I'll confirm with Ryan that that's what that number is and make sure to report back to you guys.
and then other things that you guys are going after? I know you always are trying to get interesting partners in the pool, scuba diving,
Yep.
kayaking, lifeguard.
So I think there's lifeguard training programs. Water polo was one of our bigger successes, bringing those guys in. During the summers, the water polo folks do go outside. I get it, right? It's nice. So we should hopefully see some more water polo activity. We did the water polo event with Tony Acevedo, which was I had never even been a part of a water polo thing. It was pretty cool. So we are still trying to find other ways to bring folks into the pool. Kayaks, the paddleboard folks are there. It was really, like I said, the blind athletes was very interesting. That's something I know Chelsea was working with. But yes, we're always looking for and trying to find unique opportunities to fill the pool, generally in those spaces where we aren't, to the gills on the Learn to Swim program. I think that's our best opportunity for, providing around the margins, not our best margin producer, but providing extra revenue on the margins, utilizing that space in the off hours.
The questions?
Madam Chair, I have a quick question.
We'll follow back up with those.
TM's got one.
Yes.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the refugee families that are visiting the pool? Is that an ad hoc situation, or are you doing any kind of active outreach to the various refugee organizations here in town?
At this point, it is an ad hoc situation where we've had families that have come in and asked for assistance, and then we've provided that assistance to them. That is something that Chelsea does talk to folks about, but it's not something that we've actively reached out to and provided to the community at this point. And I don't know
Okay.
exactly when and if we would be doing that. That would be something that we would have to sit down with Chelsea, and she would be running and spearheading all of that.
Gotcha, but they essentially get a discount. Is that the
They
gist?
That is the gist.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for that.
I guess equipment, any issues? Things are rolling? No? big
No, I
equipment?
mean, outside of normal wear and tear, I haven't seen, and I'm usually there. I think I had to replace a tire on a vacuum, which was great because I just pulled out a pump and pumped it up. So that's on the low end of having any maintenance stuff, but general maintenance, there's no big heaters or any other things where.
I guess that's a great question. First year, the facility heating and cooling and everything is working as intended.
Yeah, we've had some struggles. Those have been documented. The good, again, every challenge presents an opportunity. We did have some issues with the pool contractor, CEM, and getting them to the facility, and more importantly, just working with them. And we, I'll point out I think it's Rocky Mountain Electric. We've had some issues with the circuit board. But now because we've had that, they are on call, they come out, even minor issues, they're very reliable. So even with those challenges, I think we've developed a network here locally in a regional area where we can reach out and get resolution and get the things that we need to operate this pool successfully. So yes, we've had some challenges with some of the equipment, everything, but because we've had to overcome those challenges, I think we've developed relationships here locally, regionally, that have made it easier to do so now and in the future. Primarily with the pool filters was one of my bigger. We had some issues there. We developed a relationship with a gentleman out of Portland, and he's come down twice to basically, it's a chemical burn to clean these pool filters. It's a pretty wild process, but we didn't know we even had to do that before, and now we're doing it, and it's helped make the pool more efficient, easier to clean, and it's less time consuming in the interim, in between these, so. Great. All right.
Right.
Thank you.
Fifth, Ally, Mary Michael. And I guess from our side, Jason,
Yes, Jason, I met yesterday with the. We got third chair up there.
Musical chairs.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. We had an opportunity yesterday to meet with Chase and TM to go over the marketing plan. Timelines have switched a little bit. We used to have it presented at the same time as the budget, but we've postponed that for just timing and
Length of the meeting reason was really my reason behind it.
Exactly. You've all seen marketing plans in the past. I'm proud to say this is my 15th marketing plan for Boise Center. So it's a little anniversary for me. So we'll make it a good one. This is our roadmap for the year. It just kind of lays out the different goals and objectives and the initiatives that we want to accomplish throughout the year. So we'll just kind of just take a few minutes and highlight some of the things from our sections of the plan. Because we just met yesterday, we don't have a hard copy for you, but we will be presenting you with the 25 plan. If you don't want to wait till the next meeting, we can actually just get it to you digitally and also mail you a hard copy. So look forward to that. But did Chase or team, would you like to say anything prior to our comments?
I just say that yesterday, as we were wrapping up, when you asked what we would like you guys to present to the board, I mentioned that everybody here has seen this one quite a bit. So let's do the kind of meat and potatoes. And then if you have specific questions to dig in so that we don't need to go through the whole thing unless you really want to fine tooth comb, but they know what they're doing. They put together a great plan and yeah, I think that's it.
Tim, do you got any comments?
No comments as you present. I just want to double down on the fact that you guys changed a KPI that was really important last year to incentivize your sales teams for quality of leads. And if you just want to highlight how effective that was in the last year and how you plan on integrating that going forward, I would appreciate that.
Well, that will follow with it, Ally, but I'll kind of take the shortest amount of time. The marketing side, the advertising side does mirror the 24 plan. So we're very in sync with what we've been doing consistently, making sure that we're creating awareness and making sure that Boise Center is top of mind when groups are considering the West or the Pacific Northwest. We really want to be amongst our competitors and sharing our message. Most all of our advertising is geared toward meeting planners so that we can actually get to that user so that we can get them the information that they need. Everything that we do, everything that we touch is really designed to create that awareness, to keep us top of mind, and to just remind either past users or future users that we have a very quality product, that we are a premier venue, and that we do stand out from the traditional cinder block and cement type of facility. So we're very proud of our product. We have something that we can showcase. We can be very proud of putting pictures in our ads because we look like that and we taste like that, and we are happy about that because we really do have an excellent product to be able to market. The one initiative that we're going to be tackling this year will be doing some RFPs for creative services. Warren Lassen has indicated that he will be exiting the agency world, and so we will just be doing that midsummer. We'll be looking for new agency services. When we dive into that, it means not only the creative, but also the digital media buying. It also could mean public relations. Based on the agency that we select, we might need to secure other services. And so we might need to break that RFP into 2 or possibly even 3 different searches for services. And that's will be good because it'll be a refresh for us. And so we'll give the agencies a chance to respond and give them an assignment for some new direction for the facility, and then have them present if they're, as a part of the RFP process, have them make presentations to us. And then we'll make our selection probably in the September timeframe, allowing Warren to transfer documents and records and shipping photos and all that kind of stuff, just transfer of files to make sure that have a smooth transition. So looking forward to that process and keep on keeping on. Ally?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. Chase, appreciate your support and your comments. And like he said, we've got a very veteran team in place. And so sales managers have been doing this for a number of years. I'm not celebrating 15, but I think this is my 6th maybe sales plan. So, not a ton of changes for 2025. We're seeing, again, the normalization and just really some fine tuning going into next year. As we kind of compare year over year trends, our lead volume is down. So again, it's nothing I would say that's alarming. We're getting back to more of those pre-COVID levels. So anticipating kind of just sort of some similar levels going into 2025. As far as contract value, the team has been doing really, really well. And this is what TM had mentioned. This was the first year that we set goals for the sales managers to hit certain values in future book business versus just quantity. Before, for a number of years, it was always focused on how many leads are we fielding, how many proposals are we sending out, or site visits are we conducting, and that's all really important. We're still going to track those as key performance indicators, but our goals are focused on future booked revenue, room nights, and economic impact. So all the convention contracts that we're closing within the fiscal year, that goes towards our ultimately our end of year performance. Cody and I at the start of the year, felt like we were setting some ambitious goals, and it was definitely, I would say, not well received initially. It was a big change, right? And so I'm really proud to see where the team has ended up. We still have a couple weeks to the end of the year. We'll see a couple contracts trickle in, but I'm anticipating end of year future booked revenue to be around 5.6 million. And we set a goal for the team of 4.725. So did a great job. A lot of it was bolstered by some nice multi-year bookings. Aviation, which is in right now, down in West, is confirmed through 2026. We've got Pacific Northwest Clean Water coming back in 27 and 30. And then Clearwater is confirmed through 2027, which is fantastic. It's a great annual piece of business for us in September. So really pleased to see all these groups, big, high impact groups returning. Again, speaking to the fine tuning process and collaboration. So there's been a lot of focus between both the sales team and event management team on pattern and kind of strategically layering in our business. We're going to continue doing that into 2025, of course. One of the main reasons we lose business is that Boise Center just isn't available. So we have to be really careful and make sure that we're putting groups in a way that we can just maximize our utilization in our weeks. So pattern is the main way we control that. If you have groups that want to do that midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday meeting, it just really kills us on both sides. So we're doing a really good job of shifting them one way or another so we can at least accommodate like an adequate pattern for a convention, maybe a couple of conventions, and then layer in the local events on either side of them. The CVB, we've worked with the CVB to develop what's called a prime lead. And this is going to be an indicator to our hotel partners that this is sort of like it's going to be a high revenue generating event. There's potential for offsite food and beverage functions. It meets a certain threshold for peak room nights. And so it's a cue to them that we're going to need max blocks and really our best foot forward to close that particular piece of business. As Cody mentioned, we're starting our group review meetings with the hotel partners on Thursday this week, and I think that's just going to be a game changer. The CVB and center sales teams meet monthly to go through our groups and kind of strategize on what's happening with them. And I think, the hotels are a key component to us actually being able to close a deal. And so it's just going to really facilitate more communication and strategies on these groups that we're trying to confirm. So I look forward to reporting to the board on how those meetings go in the next months. And part of what has been like the impetus of those group review meetings with the hotels is that, the market is seeing just some crazy healthy demand. We see it in average daily rates are continue to go up. Obviously hotel revenues and tax revenues are in a really good place. And so that benefits the district. It does make it difficult for some of the Boise Center group blocks that, we'd like to see come through. And I say we, it's really the client, what the client would like to see come through. So it's kind of, it's a good problem, it's a bad problem. And I think that these hotel group meetings is just going to at least bring some more strategy if we have to shift pattern, who can provide a couple more rooms, 10, 20 more rooms to close a deal. And really it ultimately comes down to maintaining that compression and those healthy rates, having a nice mix of group blocks, of transient and corporate. So, if we're all aware of like the business that we're losing because these groups aren't going to be on the books, 2, 3, 4 years out. Ultimately, I think there could be some challenges in maintaining rates just because these groups provide just some great compression that all the hotels then feel outside of the downtown core. We are taking a look at our proposal again, although we just did do some updates, but really has some great feedback from the customer advisory board. CAB will continue into 2025, so we're going to continue to get feedback from them. So again, some more fine tuning there. Both teams will be working on the Bring Your Conference Home campaign. This is something that the CVB has done for a number of years, and it's been really successful. We talk about some of these high revenue generating events like 4-H and CIKM that were just here in October, and those were both supported by Boise residents or locals. University of Idaho heavily involved in the 4-H event, and then we had 2 BSU professors that were really the ones that brought the CIKM event to Boise, which is an international event. So we're going to really focus on meeting with board members of national associations that are based here in Boise and see what we can do to bring more of these conferences through our city. Like I said, we'll have a continuation of the customer advisory board, Summer FAM next year, Tree Fort FAM, which have all been really successful. Some of the new components we're looking at is hosting a PCMA Pacific Northwest chapter event in September, kind of an untapped member base that's mostly in the Washington and Oregon states. We're going to try to get them here for a meeting. Hosting some pre-conferences, invite type events at functions that take place in other markets, Chicago, DC, that sort of thing. Doing sales presentation to a third-party company based in Arizona, HPN Global, and focusing on some directional signage opportunities in and around the downtown area to help with wayfinding, give some identity to the different points of interest around our building. And I will just mention, TM, you had a great point yesterday, what's working, the local conference support. I mentioned the 4-H and the CIKM, that's working really well. We're going to continue to lean into that. What we're struggling with right now are really confirming some of the large citywides, and again, that's with some of the group blocks that we're seeing. You know, a citywide is taking 6, 7, 8, 9 hotels to fill a block, and so that's really tough for the clients too. It's a tough pill to swallow for them. And then TM, what I'm betting on next year, I'm betting on some huge success with the industry partner group review meetings. So I think we're gonna really see those be a difference maker, closing some of these larger events. I'll hand it over to Mary Michael.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Nice to see you. Nice to have you online. Mr. Rastegar, I'll keep this brief because thank you for your patience in our presentations. No radical changes for me in communications and PR for next year, but I will say that we're going to keep swinging for the green anytime that we can. It's been a successful year. We've combined digital and traditional communications channels, and this is both locally and on the national and regional basis. We utilize heavily a targeted digital media campaign to attract meetings and conventions, people who plan meetings and conferences and conventions to respond to our digital media campaigns, go to our websites, fill out lead completion forms. We utilize our website, digital marketing, e-blasts, ad campaigns, video content, and social media. That's all digital website. And then traditional would be news releases, local media coverage, and earned media. This year, we've really seen a spike in local media interest. I think it's been a couple of years, so maybe even a few more. But the interest has come mostly from district business, district happenings. I think going from our new executive director to the aquatic center to the incredible demand and growth in hotels, and then people understanding what that's all about and why that's of interest to local residents. Even this year, a KGTV story on that topic as well. So it was great to see. We had some good successes from meetings industry media. One that just jumps out as a great unicorn for the year is hosting Meetings Today Live, which both Visit Boise and Boise Center helped sponsor and bring the planners here for a couple of days. They held meetings here. Allie and I were both interviewed by the head editor of Meetings Today and an in-person video interview. That video interview was featured on their social media channels that day, was featured in several e-newsletters. It went over to 6,000 subscribers. 3 weeks in a row. We were profiled in their print publication. The next month, they had the largest print circulation of any meetings industry publication available. Things like those media views and that being recognized as a top destination, along with they're in Florida, Palm Springs, Las Vegas for their other Meetings Today Live events this year. So it's great to see that for our destination as a whole. A standout moment that I think we'll be incorporating in our strategic messaging next year is definitely when we're talking about Boise and about Boise Center out of the customer advisory board. It was really pointed out to us that Boise has this beautiful product. You have this amazing convention district right here. And it was an aha moment that we thought, wait a minute, convention district, we talked about the neighborhood, we talked about campus, but the consultant that was here said you have an arena, this beautiful convention center, public plaza, restaurants, shops, coffee places, live music venues, bars. It's all right here. You have it within this compact, walkable downtown. It's a matter of changing your messaging a little bit to say Boise Center is at the heart of this convention district. And I think all of us at this table kind of like, and along with Carrie, thought, okay, because there's cities out there that are spending millions, like Houston, to create what we have here that's been built over. Thank you to Auditorium District for having the foresight 35 years ago almost, when there was only a Christmas tree on the plaza, when they had torn down much of where we're sitting right now to draw a downtown shopping mall, and they built the original Boise Center to draw visitors and conferences and meetings. And today we have thriving downtown that we really need to be a little bit more purposeful in messaging. I think we do a good job, but we could really put that on steroids and do more with it. And there's so much momentum right now in promoting Boise and Boise Center that we're going to take that to heart. I will say it's been a good year for us coming around the corner to our KPIs that we look for in website traffic and ad responses and event inquiry form completions and in leads. It's been a good year. It has not been as robust as it had been in the past couple of years, but it's still strong. We just underwent an SEO audit of our website and we're making some improvement ourselves and then also with our web developers for things like that. We're always looking for opportunities to improve and stretch. So you'll see that with our key messaging, with some improvements to our website content and messaging. We also work very closely myself to fulfill Boise Center's marketing contract, some things with Visit Boise on their website and in their digital media. And appreciate all the support and financial investment that the district board puts into our marketing and sales department. Thank you. We're happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments?
Just make a couple comments about this team here as a new executive director. I've got longevity, professionalism. Couldn't have done it without Mary Michael this year with as much media coverage as we had as new executive director. Spike in that local media, I felt calm and collected, and that's due to Mary Michael's expertise. The sales team, I appreciate them trusting me on the new KPIs, and I know there was a little pushback, but again, I think they saw what I'm a very analytical person, and I think I believe in that type of metric versus just things that keep the wheel moving. And so again, I think that we're headed in a really great direction from that side and can't thank that team enough for what they do for us. And then Cliff's birthday, he actually shares a birthday, he was on Sunday as well, but just his years and years of experience in this gives me a calm.
No flowers for him?
I know, everybody's not just happy for him. But just as a new executive director coming into it, knowing that I got expertise in this area, I came out of the operational background, running facilities obviously here. So this is an area where I've got a lot to learn from them, and they've given me the avenue to kind of put my own flavor into saying things without really disrupting and allowing them empowerment to do their best work. And they've done a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess I should have put this in my comments, but you all saw the link for Cody's eval. That process is starting as we're entering end of year. So we'll have that on executive session from December for Cody's eval process. So just take a look at that. I think I put it December 6th, so that'll give me some time to compile reports and meet with Cody and go from there. So, and then thank you for the flowers. Appreciate it. That's very kind. Okay. See no other business before the board. Meeting's adjourned.
All right.